If we could call the meeting order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Barr.
Here.
Giovanini.
Here.
Eckhoff.
Here.
Callis.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Cowser.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Cranford.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Willie.
Here. Thank you. Moving on, we have the consent agenda with 3 items. If we've had a chance to look those over.
I motion approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Barb. Roll call, please.
Barr.
Yes.
Giovanini.
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Cowser.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Cranford.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. On the irregular agenda, item A, TIF 3 closeout. Jim, you
Yep.
want to?
So when I came on, that was one of the projects that had been sitting out for a while. TIF 3 was a R.R. Donnelly TIF that was started in the late 80s. It was never renewed after its initial 23-year period. And so it had been kind of sitting. We've been filing reports on it, had been sitting for over the last decade. Closing it out, I made contact with PGAV, which is our TIF consultant advisors. They gave us the process. I made notification to the taxing bodies. There is a surplus in that account that's been sitting in there. As of right now, that surplus is $88,436. And so what will happen with this ordinance to close out the TIF, no increment has been collected on this TIF in over 10 years. So by closing it out, there is no impact from increment on any of the taxing bodies because none of it has been collected in some time. But the $88,000 will go back to the treasurer and it will be redistributed as the treasurer sees fit to those taxing bodies. So otherwise that money had been just sitting in that account. It was in a TIF account, so we weren't able to use it for anything. So it had just been sitting there and it was time to just get that one closed out. So this ordinance will finalize that project, and then we'll transfer the money over, and then it'll actually close out after December 31st for the end of this taxing year.
More of a
Definitely,
paperwork thing.
yeah, definitely a formality, and it's really been closed in essence for quite some time. Surplus just had never been returned.
Any other questions for Jim?
I have a question. Obviously, it's formality, but so with TIF that we have left, if we didn't spend the money prior to the closure, we would have to send it back to the taxing bodies. Is that how I'm understanding what
correct.
this money is
Yes.
going to be? So that's why we have to properly plan so that we spend it all.
Right, yes.
Correct.
That shouldn't be a problem.
I know, but here's $88,000 that we didn't do anything with. That
Well, this was limited to, I think it was
Sure.
W.A. Kruger when they
Right.
set it up
Yes.
with
Right.
Donnelly.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a specific thing for some improvement they were doing, that they consented to it so that the increment
Yeah.
could go in there so we could give them TIF reimbursement for some
Sure.
improvements.
sure.
And I don't know how we ended up with the surplus. They must not have spent as much as,
That would be my guess.
as
I
we
don't know.
expected, but that's how that worked.
I'll motion that we proceed with closeout.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Scott. Roll call, please.
Giovanini.
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Cowser.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Cranford.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
Okay, item B, zoning amendment. Alan, you want to give a little spiel on this?
We've got the zoning, the minutes of the board meeting that were held a week ago are in the packet. And what situation is that the contract purchaser, Mr. Lind of the property on the corner of Elm and McKinley, would be in that southwest quadrant there. That was, I forget the name of the gentleman that owned it, but it's been elevated through filling and stuff, and it's vacant at this point in time. And Mr. Lynn's plan was to take that. There are 3 actual 50 by 100, I think 153 foot, 163 foot lots. And he wanted to build a duplex on each one of those. And it's zoned R1, so it would have to be zoned R2 to build duplexes. And several of the people in the neighborhood showed up and were concerned about that level of density. And they presented a petition, which is attached to your minutes, which you probably all saw, opposing that. And since the zoning board voted to recommend that that not be approved, I did not prepare an ordinance. But if the council determines that should override the planning board's recommendation, I would come back next meeting with an ordinance.
I attended that meeting that they had and listened to both sides and was torn as to which direction I would go, but I'm inclined to follow the planning commission's vote no, partly because it seemed like they were looking for just a spot to change within that whole
And
block.
it's not adjacent to any other R2. It'd be what layman's would call spot zoning.
Yeah.
Not that it's absolutely illegal, but as a matter of policy, you try to have zoning from low density to high density, like you go R1, then have some R2, then R4 kind of.
This is one of those unique changes that I kind of like to reserve some time when we get to the council discussion, where we get a chance to talk about some other things, to kind of address a need for the council's better understanding of our city vision when it comes to those things, and look at some planning and zoning concepts and ideas for the future.
Just so the council knows, and Mike heard it, that he could go on there today and build 3 single-family homes. It's the building of the duplex. So these are non-buildable lots. A lot of discussion happened over how those lots got raised because they were in the flood plain, but not in the floodway, which they were able to do legally, and the concerns of whether that had a negative impact on the floodwaters or drainage of stormwaters. And the real issue is the density, whether there's 50-foot wide lots, whether duplexes would be appropriate density. If they were, should a larger area maybe be zoned R2 to make more people have that opportunity, as opposed to just these 3 lots. If that area should be R2, maybe the whole area should be R2 instead of R1. But it was a good discussion. The residents were very direct with their comments and were concise. It wasn't one of those meetings that said the same thing over and over and over again. They did a nice job, and Mr. Lynn did a nice job. He wants to improve the community and wants to create more housing opportunities. They were going to be rentals, not sold, by the way. They were going to be, he was going to rent out the duplex units.
Yeah, I spoke with him at the end there, and he did assure me that if he didn't do the duplexes, that single-family homes is what he would do, and then rent those out. So anyway, I'm making a motion to go along with the planning zoning board's recommendation.
Any other comments?
Second. I think if we have an ordinance, if we keep having variances, what's the point of the ordinance in the first place? We just variance right out of existence.
Well, in this case, you did go through a fairly intensive process many years ago with, was it Tesca? The zoning planning, and we redid our comprehensive plan and look at the council over an extended period of time took a real close look at the zoning classifications all throughout the city, and what we have there is the culmination of that. So is there changes enough in the city to justify changing that? I don't know. Whether there's changes in the character of the community, the needs of the community, that would be different. But like John said, they looked at the zoning and they confirmed that was the proper zoning for that area. And it's not technically a variance, it'd be a rezoning, so then it wouldn't require a variance. But it would be a rezoning of just 3 lots in a sea of R1.
Right.
I'm really mixed about this because we have a strong need for housing in our community. I mean, ask anybody in that business, and we need housing, period. I mean, single family, multifamily, and this land has been empty for, I don't remember ever there being something on it in my lifetime, and I lived on that side of town, kind of, but it is, I mean, the area is all, and if you read through the questions in our zoning book about, you know, ask yourselves these 20 questions about how, and it's about half and half of whether we could answer yes or no to the reasons why. But I think single family is, and the objections they have may still come to light, but we still could have those things. I mean, hopefully there's no water issues anymore. I mean, I think Jake could probably speak to that part of it. You know, is there going to be a lot of people living in a house that's built? Who knows? I could have 10 people in my house.
More people in a single-family house than
Right.
there would be in 2 duplexes.
Right. So, you know, it's definitely important that we look at the comprehensive hand because a lot has changed since we've done that. And maybe this isn't the area where we would have anything, but we've got to find a way where we can offer more multifamily homes.
Okay.
I
Any
don't
other?
know what frequency other communities review their comprehensive plan and their zoning, but I remember the last time it was a huge undertaking because Pontiac's a big area. And looking at the map under a microscope to determine if these areas right for this and what's out there, this just had, I think there might have been an old shed or a building on here at one time, or into my mind maybe, but.
Lee Rather had a shed
There's
there.
2 sheds.
Right.
Just had
Right
still
next
back on
door.
Back door, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee Rather owned that property for years.
Yeah.
I can attest back there was water in it a few times in the 50 years I've known of it. But that was on the west end.
Yeah, but it's nice when someone like Mr. Lynn wants to make an investment in the community.
Exactly.
But it does need to be consistent with our zoning and what the zoning needs are as well. So that's orderly development.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to ratify the zoning board's recommendation. Motion by Mike Barr, seconded by John Willie and Frank. Any other discussion, or we call for the vote?
So a yes vote is to go along with the.
A yes vote is to deny the rezoning,
Okay.
Right.
and a no vote would mean saying you would be inclined to have the rezoning and bring back an ordinance to do that.
Oh, if that's the case, that's not what I was asking. I
You're
was,
wanted,
I
you
wanted
want
to go-
ratify what the zoning board
what the
did,
zoning board asked for,
which means that would say no to the rezoning.
Right.
But if somebody
yes would
votes
be the
no
no.
on your motion, they would be thinking that it should be rezoned.
I got you.
Are we clear? Roll call, please.
I think.
I think, yeah.
As
Well,
mud.
yes is to follow the
Right.
zoning board.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Cowser.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Cranford.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
Jovanini.
Yes.
Thank you.
Denied.
Motion has followed the zoning board's recommendation. I see that we have several guests here who
Well,
are
we had-
willing to speak on the subject.
But I had explained to them that we don't have the hearing over again.
Yeah.
The council did have the minutes and the petition, and at least one of the members was there and attended, so that's why the council just went ahead and considered it.
We appreciate all your efforts and the work with the zoning board, and we heard the argument very well. So, thank you. There's no need to go any further unless you have something else.
Thank you.
All right.
Committee too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, item C, street maintenance spray patching. Chris, I assume that's you.
Yes. Part of our maintenance, street maintenance this year would be to do spray patching throughout town. There's an enclosed map of the areas that we were looking at. This work is priced per the gallon of oil, and we had a budget of $13,000. And the prices we received two from one from Ace in the Hole of Anna City at $6.55 per gallon, and the second from D&D Pavement Solutions of Eureka at $7.65 per gallon. And there'll be an additional $1,000 cost for stone, which we will provide. So we're asking approval tonight to award Ace in the Hole the work in the amount of $13,000.
Any questions for Chris?
I move that we accept.
I'll second.
Motion by Bill Callis, seconded by Jason Lee to approve the $13,000 expenditure. Roll call, please.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Thank you. You're gonna have a lot of fun, Chris. Moving on, Community Service Committee meeting minutes. Mr. Callis?
Yes, I think everybody had a copy. I won't bore you by reading through it. But what the intent was, there's two items actually, but then advertising on the Block 59 was the debate or the question that we had. And that block was originally set up for a gathering place for advertising space. And we've had different events that go on there and trying to put in words what can and cannot be there. And it's kind of confusing because I'll defer to you, Jim. We agreed to the following exceptions, and that's where it gets kind of confusing. So I'd like you to explain that.
Sure,
please.
yes. The questions on Block 59 really center around banners and signs being posted there for events that may or may not take place in that space. The committee discussed what the intent of that space was as a gathering place, not necessarily designed to be an advertising space. The issues that have happened in the past, so we have policy that discusses advertising, community advertising events on our e-sign out front, in our parks, on the message boards, as well as in the community calendar. And so there have been, there's been a couple like religious events, that banners that were posted in Block 59 that would not have made it on the community calendar because the intent of those forums is for events that are available and open to the entire community. So we discussed whether that was the necessary need for that space, and it was my understanding the committees indicated that let's just not advertise at all in that space, with the exception of city needs, city signs that are in that space, or in the event of an event day of, for them to bring their own A-frame or some movable type of sign that can show what the activity is that's there, but not to be used as a advertising space for events that don't take place there or take place in the future.
And those signs were not to be drilled in or pushed in, they're supposed to be freestanding.
Yes, and the committee recommended that same policy be in place in all of our public spaces and parks.
Do we want to put forth a?
That's the next item
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
report.
Not just for everybody's information.
I'm
Is there
sorry.
gonna be an ordinance that's gonna prohibit that, or?
So it
More
would,
of a policy.
yeah, we would
Guideline.
amend, item E will be asking for an amendment for that policy that governs advertising in public spaces. And then you also discuss pickleball.
Yes, and it's interesting, because this evening, about 5 o'clock, the Peoria News came on. I didn't catch the town, but they were showing a pickleball tournament and how big and large that has become in the area and in the state and in the whole country, I guess. But we did meet and discuss on that, and we're going to suggest that we explore. And we have 4 courts now in the rec center. We have one supposedly pickleball court done behind Old Hummiston Park, and it's in disrepair. So we thought what we need to do is get some dollars, hard dollars, and see what it'd take to not only convert that one on Hummiston, but even do some repair work on the one at the Recplex. The rec,
Just the rec.
just the rec.
Yep, so just an exploratory mode right now to take a look at what it might take to rehab Recplex tennis courts, some of them into pickleball.
What about the two, aren't there 2 tennis courts at the Elks Club?
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever decide those were?
Their potential, but our best bang for our buck is probably going to be the Recplex.
Yeah.
And so the companies that we had gotten bids from last summer out there, some quotes, I reached back out to them to get some relook at those because that was to do the entire area out there. And so they're going to revisit and hopefully be back to us in the next 3 weeks.
That should be just resurfacing.
Well, it would be a lot of crack repair, and they would put 3 coats of the stuff on the top of it, and there's the standards would be moved because pickleball is a different area, and but we may be able to get by with just doing one side, and so they're going to come. They're going to revisit. I spoke with them, so they're going to revisit what they had given Taylor last summer, and hopefully we can get it accomplished.
There's a lot of people interested in
It's
pickleball,
surprising, yeah.
and it's amazing. I didn't think it was quite as popular as it is around here, but it is. And I've had several conversations with groups, and some groups are more interested than you would think. But I've got a group I want to get Kelly get together with too. So
The one company that I spoke with last week, we were number 12 community on the list for renovating
yeah,
tennis courts into pickleball.
yeah.
So it is, really
I think
a
my daughter
demanding.
was in 3 tournaments this summer
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Washington, Illinois. So, yeah, they do a lot.
It might have been the town was on the news tonight.
Well, they
in
just
West
got new
Washington.
courts over there, so.
So we have to keep up with the times, and the times are pickleballing. So
Yeah.
So I guess what we'll do is go ahead and put some numbers together.
Working on it.
Yes.
And do we need a vote on the change on the advertising?
that's item E.
Yep, that'll be the next item.
Okay, thanks, Bill, for the report. We'll get further information as it develops on pickleballs, or pickleball courts. Yeah. Moving on to item E, community advertising policy change.
Yeah, so you can have in front of you the guidelines for publicizing through the city of Pontiac avenues. Within that, it covers this community calendar, the city hall e-sign, banners and signs. It's highlighted in yellow. That's the proposed language to make a change. That no signs or banners by any entity other than the city would be allowed on public properties, including Block 59 in the parks. If an organization is holding an event, temporary signs and banners will be allowed during the event. No stakes or posts can be put into the ground to display the temporary signs or banners. So the intent is for them to bring their signs and display them, either like an A-frame, sandwich board. They can string them up on their own tents. Anything like that would be fine.
What about streets right of way? Public property, street right of way.
Well, we didn't really discuss that because
I
it
just
was
mentioned,
more.
all of our street right of way is public, so anywhere along a public street, if someone posts a sign or a banner, that would be on public right of way or public property as well.
This should cover that too.
It would, I mean, the wording would say that,
Yeah.
public properties including block 59 of the parks, and I just wanted to make sure that was the intention. We would interpret it. The way I would read this as a lawyer would be to say, all public properties and the including 59 in the parks is just clarification. That it would include public right-of-way.
We didn't really talk about that.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't even consider it.
No.
But you get a lot of advertising, political advertising, that sort of thing along the streets.
Yeah, it
Yes,
makes
garage
sense.
sales.
Yeah.
Garage sales, yep.
They're not
Dave Logan
supposed to
made a
be.
career of
Right.
pulling off
But,
signs off
they're
of
not
the
supposed to be
utility
there.
poles. They're not supposed to be.
Nor are they supposed to be stapled to the Highline poles that are existing either.
Dave takes care of that.
Dave was really good about that.
Yeah, I don't
For
know
now.
in that public right of way how much this would change.
It wouldn't.
Being that those kinds of signs weren't supposed to be in the right of way in the first place.
Yeah, we've made I think historically, First Amendment decision that if someone posts a political sign in their yard, that's okay, even if they happen to use the berm instead of their yard. We've never removed that, as long as they're removed on a timely basis after the election. And most candidates have been pretty good by going around after the election, win, lose, or draw, to pull their signs.
So this would be in keeping with that.
Yes.
Seems like that would be okay.
If you find an abuse situation, we can use this to address it.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Right.
So we need a motion to approve the new policy.
I'll make a motion of approval of the advertising policy change.
Motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
seconded by
I beat some.
Mike. Roll call, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Giovanini,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, we have mayor's comments. Boy, I've got about 18 pages, but I'm going to limit it to a little bit. A couple things, keep you informed of. There's a Route 66 planning session, August 31st. Bob Russell and Brian Verdon will be working on this one. This concerns Chenoa to Pontiac on the old Route 66. There's been several sessions, but there is progress heading towards renovation and progress there. So they'll be working on that.
What time is that, Bill?
4 to
4 to
7.
Okay. August 31st.
Something else to keep in mind is that the Threshermen's Reunion kicks off August 31st. And then we'll have, of course, the Threshers Parade that Sunday uptown here. No U of I band this year, but I spoke with Scott Schickel, and he's working on another college for a year or two down the road too. So we're looking forward to that. I've had several nice letters about city functions, the library, and other things from people that says it's just amazing what a town like this can do sometimes. So we're real happy with how things are going and working towards that. I think everybody's heard that we did hire a young lady to replace Mary Jones. Liz, you want to just tell us a little bit?
Yeah, we hired Misty Bell. She comes to us, well, she moved here from Texas, but she's originally from the Lincoln, Illinois area. She has a background in working with tourism and also serving on Main Street Board down in that area. So she's familiar with both sides of that, and she started last Monday. So
We're excited.
Yeah.
there you go.
All right. Well, it's filling in some of the blanks that we need. City council comments.
So I want to pick up on where we left off a little bit there. Some of the comments from Councilman Willie and Councilperson Eckhoff. At last month's council meeting, we had some of the same kind of conversation where we were doing some alterations or some looking at requesting some zoning amendments and things like that. And personally, I find it difficult to make some of these decisions without kind of knowing what the city's vision has been. And we we have a few newer council members who maybe, are making some votes and not clear as to what our vision and our mission from the city may have been. So, I know it's been several years, and it's been before my time that we've had a plan put together, and I'm sure if we look at that past city mission and vision, we may find that it's perhaps not adequate for what's happening with the city currently. And it might just not be serving our community efficiently. So now that Jim has got his arms around this pretty tightly, firm hold on his responsibilities, it seems that this might be an appropriate time to revisit that, a citywide planning model. My suggestion is perhaps we could put together a working session to review the current document that we have. I've never really seen it. This map here, I've never seen that before either. And then maybe set up some steps, perhaps a select committee of folks to evaluate that and set up some other steps to maybe even find a consultant to help us formulate a relevant 5-year plan that's under your watch.
Yeah, and so I think I can unbind one of those comprehensive plans and digitize it and get it out to everyone, so you have it, and we can even post it on the website as well. But I can make sure that you all have a copy of the current comprehensive plan, and we can surely do work sessions on that and take a look. That comprehensive plan, I think, is 1997 is when it was published, and so yes, so I think. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head that 5 years it would last. An update would last some time. I mean, I for what it is, for zoning and what the intended purposes of those areas are, I think it would give us. As a matter of fact, if you look at it, I think you will also find that a lot of it is still pretty relevant as well. So, but yeah, I'll work on that and get it out to everyone.
Remember, the comp plan is a very broad, general thing.
Sure.
Whereas when you look at the zoning map, which addresses this, is very specific. And when we did the codification, we didn't really address the zoning map. We simply codified with some modifications the existing zoning ordinance. We did that codification a few years ago and readopted basically what we had before.
Well, I think what Kelly said, been in some big organizations. I've never approached one where I was looking 5 months, 6 months. I mean, even in the military, like say my battalion command, I'm looking 15 years down the road, training objectives, building maintenance, vehicle maintenance, when do these vehicles give out? So a comprehensive, some of us are pretty new. Would be nice maybe, I don't want to.
Just to review it.
Comprehensive plan is exactly that.
Yeah.
It is the big picture of what somebody's best prediction, like the Route 23 corridor, probably hasn't developed exactly what the people that did the comprehensive
So,
plan thought
we're
it might.
30, we're trying to get here, because that's going to always kind of be a moving target, a floating target, but you're looking 3 years, 5 years, are we close? Yeah, because I think that would be good. And
I
share
think we'll
some
be
thoughts.
going into a committee of the whole session and breaking down from there. We're setting up a schedule for quarterly meetings on our standing committees, and I've been working on that, looking at dates and whatnot. And I think a committee of the whole meeting might get us a better start on something like this, to put a smaller working group together to bring more ideas before the whole group.
And to review
Yeah,
plan.
at the same time. Yeah.
Well, when I was digging around today, trying to really wrap my arms around the zoning, I went to where I keep all my city things, and I pulled out the downtown business district plan that we had done in 2014, I think it was. And I was like, I wonder when the last time that any of us really talked about this. I mean, and that's, here we are almost 10 years later in that. And it's just, refreshing, okay, we accomplished this, and what do we still have to do, or is this even a moot point anymore? And I had the pleasure of last week, my brother-in-law was one of the inductees into the high school's distinguished alumni. And so I went to the ceremony, and the individuals that were given awards all spoke, John's wife, Katie, and it was, some of the speeches brought tears to my eyes, and not just my brother-in-law's, because what Pontiac meant to these individuals, many who no longer live here, and talked about, the quality of life here and how they, but one of the comments that struck me, and I had to take a picture of it, was change is a requirement of progress. And we often talk about how we have done things in the past, but we've always done this that way. And we need to progress in many ways in our community. And so getting together and talking about ideas and wrapping our arms around change, even if it's really hard, is something we have to embrace, because life doesn't go on if we don't accept change sometimes. So I think, we need to take a hard look at a lot of things with that.
Well, you had an example of that with the solar farm issue that came up in that setback back on Route 23.
Right.
Is that something that is applicable or isn't? The vision was that's going to be a commercial corridor like
Right.
116. It hasn't happened. It is that the highest and best use for the land. That's an example. You came right head to head with it.
Yeah, it's an excellent example of what we've been going through for the last several meetings. Every time there's always something on the agenda that
Part of it's going to be hard to address. The people that come up we have a lot of 50, 60 foot wide, 150 foot lots, and they want to do a lot of stuff on that. People have a lot of stuff, need big garages,
Yeah.
and so some of it is just a matter of the materialism we've got. We got a lot of stuff, and we don't have space to put it, so people want to get maximum usage out of their property, and our ordinance restricts a lot of that. So a lot of the variances are like for garage setbacks or garage sizes or accessory structure sizes. That's going to be harder to address because we've got all those lots. Unless you take a firmer stance, we're not going to modify it. You're going to have to live with what it is. Or we're going to, like Brian always took the position, if we're doing too many variances and people should have a bigger garage or less setback, maybe we should just change the setback.
Right.
But on a bigger picture, there's other issues. We have infrastructure issues. We always have a lot of conversation about accessibility and things downtown. So, to take another look at how we've talked about it back in '97, and how does that relate to today, and what we need to do to refine that, and then set some goals and have some kind of metrics to know we're doing it.
Yeah, those things tend to be a do it and put it on the shelf and look at it.
Right, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that.
Well, we'll have an opportunity to do that, and we will set up the meetings to get the ball rolling, as it were. Moving along, though, City Administrator.
I have a couple
sorry.
other things, I'm sorry. Splash pad.
That was number one on my list.
Oh, okay. And then I know it's 100 degrees out this week, but are we contemplating what is going to happen with the skating rink in the winter? We need to, because that time frame is going to come soon, and we got to figure out a better plan for that. So
Very little use out of
just
it.
planting a seed.
Yep.
Colder weather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go
Splash pad. We did have what we think now was a human error on the splash pad. It was shut down the other day, and that I think has been resolved. I think it was a mistake that we drained all the water out instead of circulating it, and so we televised it thinking we had a catastrophic leak in the underground pipes. We did not, and it's been running fine today. So I know it's going to be very hot this week, and the splash pad is up and running. But there's a bigger picture with the splash pad. It does have some electrical issue that we have not zoned in on yet, and we are waiting on Raindrop, who's a company that built it, to come. And when that takes place, we were hoping maybe early September-ish that when it's closed down for the year, that they can really dig into it and find out. Because what's happening is when all the features are on, it tends to blow out some boards, and so we're having some issues there that we just haven't been able to track down with other electricians that weren't involved in the building of it. So we're working on that. But speaking of that, this Thursday there's a concert in the park. Sergeant Sauerkraut, is that right? And there's more to that name, isn't there?
Polka band.
Oh, Sergeant Sauerkraut's Polka Band. Thursday, we're looking right now heat advisories in the daytime of 100 degrees with heat indexes looking around 110 or so. Right now, we haven't made any calls. At this stage in the year, we really want to have this outside. If we move it inside because of heat, the worry is that we're going to have a great band here and not a lot of attendance. And so we'll look at that a little bit closer. And I would definitely advise, if we can get the band to play outside, it'll be 7 o'clock at night. But if the band will play outside, then we would, really like to encourage those that can come to take all those precautions in the heat. And right now it looks like maybe the heat advisory will be over by then. So we're kind of looking to see how that goes. Otherwise, a busy week for the staff, and I gotta thank them for the work that they've done. We've all had discussions about this week's heat advisories and how to take those precautions. We are working on that I'll be bringing to this body a citywide policy handbook, and there hasn't been any shortage in activity in the building and zoning department and different projects that are moving slowly through. So that's all I have.
Have there been any issues with the underground cable?
There was a couple of minor ones. Some of the complaints we had were putting some spoils on private property and maybe loitering or resting on some of the private property without permission. We've addressed those, and we have. Right now we have Pavlov, which is Hutchins, is the name of the contractor that's doing the boring. And they go by, Pavlov's installation goes by CCG Fiber. So you'll see those folks out. And then there's another company that's going to be coming to town for Metro Communications, MCC. And I don't remember what their name is. It's like V2.
They started today.
Okay, so they're starting, and they're starting down by Division Street by the railroad tracks. Their main hub is going to be by LS Building in that area, so that's where they're going to start. And we've been getting everyday updates from CCG, and Metro came in and they gave us a big list of where they plan on going. It's our understanding when they have a bunch of different phases, and when they finish their first phase, they're going to offer the service as well. Metro will, just like Pavlov will. And we've expressed to both of those contractors what our expectations are in both boring, ground disturbance and restoration, and as well as customers and professionalism. So we have direct lines to their supervisors, and so far hasn't been too bad.
I've had CCG in my neighborhood already doing door hangers, so they're out there.
Yeah, they've been pretty responsive. I mean, going into this, Jim made it very clear that, this was a concern of the community. They be professional, respect other people's property, and do a professional job, and they've had minimal number of impacts to anything that they weren't supposed to get. But we get an email every day, from Alan about Alan Austin, I think his name is, saying where they're going to be that day. So we know where they're going to be. So if someone calls, we'll know. And it's never fun to have construction in your front yard.
Is the whole community eventually going to get it?
The whole community is going to get it twice.
Yeah,
correct,
from both
yes.
companies.
That's what they.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I thought so. But I just I was confirming that.
Yes.
So you'll have a choice.
Yeah.
Everybody will have a
Nice.
choice
Yeah.
of two. Three if include media account.
Yeah,
Moving on. Okay.
price
Yes, sir.
wars.
Public comments. Kevin, you want to jump up or? Yeah. Up to the podium there, please.
I'd just like, on behalf of my neighbors on McKinley Street and the surrounding area that helped get this going, thank you for the committee and everybody that saw things our way. We really appreciate it. And we're going to be a lot happier down there not having the subdivisions, I'm sure. So thank you very much.
All right. Take care, Kevin.
Yep.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Riley. My name is Paul Ducat. I'm going to be seeking the 53rd District Illinois State Senate seat. I came here tonight to meet all of you. I want you to put a name with a face. After we're done tonight, I'd like to speak with you. If you have any issues you'd like to tell me about. I got the opportunity to speak with Jim last week, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. He gave me really good ideas of what's going on in Pontiac and what I could do if I'm elected to be your next senator. A little bit about me. I'm 47 years old, father of 3. I got an amazing wife she's telling me, go for it. And it's an exciting journey so far. A little bit about myself. I've been 28 years in politics. Lately, I just became the vice chairman of the Iroquois County Board, way over on your east side. But it's been exciting. I get to see hands-on, and aldermen, you're the ones that actually work the cities, and you know what's going on and what needs to be done. And that's another reason why I came here tonight, is just to hear the issues and if I can help. Liz, I would love to do the polka because my grandma and grandpa, they taught me how to dance doing the polka. So thank you for saying about that. But beyond that, if you have any questions or anything, you'd like to speak to me afterwards, I would greatly just like to introduce myself to you and get to know more about what's going on in Pontiac. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Any other comments? Hearing none. We have a motion to adjourn, I believe. Motion by Frank Giovanini, seconded by Bill Callis.
Biggest smile gets the
Yeah.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Right.
I held my mouth.